hang in there, because when we're done, we will have a Q&A to hear what you all think about what we have said. And
Jeff, can I interrupt 1 second?
Okay.
I only want to make a suggestion. If everyone hasn't already, go to the top right of your screen and click on speaker view, because then you will get not only Jeff, but you'll also get his PowerPoint slide more front and center instead of the size of a postage stamp. Okay, now it's all yours again, darling.
Thank you, hun. Okay, so let's proceed into this. Forces at work at every level of existence in the universe. And they are mostly in opposition to each other. They have about them, in some cases, conflict. And we'll look into this just a little bit. So out there are black holes that absorb energy, and then there's, I never knew this before, white holes. I never had heard of white holes, but there is this thing called a vortex where energy goes into it, and then it's turned by a white hole into matter, and it then forms a galaxy. I never knew this. Now, everything that we see and are talking about in the universe as a huge totality is also represented on Earth, and it's also represented in us. So on Earth, an example of two opposing forces is the ebb and flow of the tides. And there are plenty of other examples of opposing forces, natural opposing forces. I'm sure you can think of a lot. However, I'm just going to use that one as an example. The within us now, within us and our humanity, are a number of opposing forces, so there are just a few categories down there of what we see as differences in the way things are, right? That we'll just see opposites at work, the dialectical, as I've been learning to call it. So keep in mind the tension that these opposing forces cause in a minuscule, minute sort of way at the subatomic level, and also at the galactic level and everything in between. There's some tension in every one of those opposites. And let us take a look then at the forces in the universe. They're constantly in motion. There is a geometric figure called vector equilibrium that you'll see in just a second that represents this constant motion. And there is within it the tension that has formed galaxies. And the tension or the duality that is present there, yes, is in us. So here is a vector equilibrium. Anybody seen that before? Yeah. Now, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who I'm sure most of you know or have read or heard, used this as the basis for her 12 around 1 model. And at some other point, I'll talk about that and what that's all about, but not today. So the forces are constantly in motion. And within us is every component of the universe. So I've talked about some of those things up there, but the real important part of this slide is we can see that there is an exchange of energy and information, also known as consciousness, throughout the entire cosmos. And this makes us all one. It's interesting that the very same elements that are part of the magnetic field that surrounds the earth and keeps us from burning up is also the same stuff that our organs are made of, the cells that the body organs are made of, and the molecules and the atoms and the subatomic atomic particles, all the same stuff. It's fascinating to me. So there's some science behind what we know to be the expanding and contracting of the universe. And this guy, Buckminster, calls it the place where energy in the universe comes to a state of absolute stillness. So the universe is always contracting, except for a relatively short time, and it's still. And you might think that our lives are kind of parallel to that. We are in constant motion most of the time, and then we are still. And what you're looking at is a vector equilibrium, and it is perfectly balanced. It has every last part of it is the same size as every other part of it. It is the perfect example of how energy flows and then how it comes to a stop. And here, then, the zero phase is the source of all of our existence. And there is often too much oppositional force in our lives, and it has a tendency to keep us from spirituality. We need to find our own personal zero phase. And this phase is called that's the Low Country in South Carolina, near the
somewhere. It's right there.
Hey, could you guys mute for a little bit? There, I'll get you back. But isn't that a pretty picture? Very still. Okay, stillness. What Buckminster Fuller says forms, he doesn't mean just physical forms. He means that the forms that are out there that are represent our awareness, our will, and especially our imaginary potential. And the way into that imaginary potential is through stillness. And it acts as a gateway to the spiritual. So there's a real parallel between what is happening on a cosmic level in the universe, where there are opposite forces that cause tension, and it's the same within us. On a personal level, on an interpersonal level, on a community level, there is that type of tension, conflict that causes tension. And so the way to get into and be and find spirituality is by being still. And this is a quote from Eckhart Tolle. When stillness becomes conscious, the spiritual dimension enters your life, and you begin to be guided by an intelligence far greater than the human mind. I think that's even really hard to comprehend. And so it's something that is, and I think can only be experienced by finding your way into stillness. And